He was a militant. He was giving word and speaking and educating based on what he felt in his life and his experiences. He was a spiritual being, and he taught from his heart based on the situations and things that we have seen in our lives as his parents, what his cousins have experienced, what other people have experienced in the criminal justice system and the religious system and all the systems that are in America. He spoke from the heart.
January 11, 2019. Treshun and 3 other young adults were followed for 11 minutes by Arlington police before being stopped for an alleged traffic violation. Officers questioned the driver of the vehicle, then took her keys and her phone from her. Treshun asked the police why they took their phones and was told by the officers it was for officer safety. He then asked what about their own safety and asked for a supervisor. He was laughed at by the officers. The driver was pulled out of the vehicle without giving consent for search. The 4 young adults were denied requests to call their parents by the officers. Once Treshun got out of the car, he ran away out of fear, attempting to defend himself and flee for his life. He was fatally shot by Arlington Police Officer Austin Williams.
Treshun's experience with police brutality from Arlington Police Department didn't just begin on January the 11th during that traffic stop. He had actually had a prior police brutality incident March 8th of 2017 at the age of 18. The witness stated that 5 officers ended up jumping on Treshun and beating him up while he was already on the ground and in handcuffs. So after he had fell to the ground with the second taser, they had handcuffed him, and then Coleman, based on his police report, put the taser into Treshun's back and tased him. While I think at that point, our conversation changed on what self-defense looked like for him. I know we definitely talked about him having the right to exist at that point, and that he had a right to defend himself no matter who he was dealing with and what was going on in his life. He didn't have to be a victim, that he could stand up for himself, specifically with policing. And it kind of changed my mindset on policing at that point as well, because now it was my child who was being brutalized.
The night of his death, 3 Arlington police officers showed up to their home to inform them that Treshun was hospitalized from an incident during a traffic stop.
No medical staff ever came to speak to us about Treshun's condition from the point we got there until Arlington Police Home, and the same officer who beat and tased Treshun in 2017, until he arrived almost 2 hours later.
Trena shares the audio of the moment they learned their son was deceased. Trigger warning.
To hear Treshun is deceased at 20, and I let off a scream that no mother would ever want to hear. The frequency and the amount of energy and the amount of emotion that I released at that point, I know shifted the atmosphere. And he tells them that we shouldn't be allowed to see Treshun. It wouldn't be a good idea for them to let us see our child based on our response to them telling us he was dead. So he made the decision to remove that ability to be with our child.
Richard Coleman, he is currently an Arlington PD sergeant. He used excessive force on Treshun in 2017. He was the lead detective on Treshun's homicide case, gave the mothers the death notice, and abused his authority, deciding that the mothers cannot see Treshun. When finally able to speak to the medical staff regarding their son, the hospital staff made it seem as if Treshun died from blood loss within 15 minutes and still did not provide any information on his injuries. A grand jury reviewed the case and found the officers to be justified. Trena then submitted a public records request once the investigation closed.
Come to find out, Treshun had been shot at 10:18. at 10:18 in Arlington, and he was taken to Arlington Memorial at least about 15 to 20 minutes later is when he arrived at Arlington Memorial, the same hospital he was taken to when he was beaten, tased in 2017. And at the hospital, he was actually handcuffed to the bed with 5 gunshot wounds, an abdomen wound that was not treated. He had his hand wrapped because his hand was broken because passed over it. We see it in the pictures that you see. And he was handcuffed and he was bleeding profusely. He was shot in both of his buttocks, in his right butt, in his left butt, and his left arm, and his stomach, and his hand.
The facts are, Treshun was shot 5 times. At no point was he given pain medication to ease his pain. His heart and blood pressure were never regulated. While bleeding out, they pumped him full of saline and blood. They intubated and sedated him, as the doctor noted that he was going crazy. It took 3 ambulances to get him to the hospital.
We were able to see the timeline of him basically bleeding to death. At Arlington Memorial, they called for an ambulance, the first ambulance, and they had to call for a different ambulance because it was a critical ambulance that they didn't call. So they had to cancel that one. The critical ambulance, the second ambulance that they called, broke down. So they had to get a third ambulance. Treshun was literally only been given blood.
The videos show that medical aid was not rendered to Treshun after the shooting. It also showed the treatment he received while lying there dying.
Sit fucking still! Shut the fuck up! I'm trying to help you!
It's in my chest, it's in my stomach. He got me in the stomach. Why are you robbing me?
Why am I robbing you?
Yeah.
Get your fucking leg down.
One shot?
2 in my leg.
2 in your leg?
Yeah.
Where in your legs?
Right there.
Right up here?
The bottom.
On the bottom. All
In
right.
my hands. Fuck, help me out, bro.
And yet, no one's held accountable for them failing to render aid. Even the attempt to render aid. No one is saying that the aid that they rendered could have saved his life, but the fact that we can have video evidence, the same way that you've seen George Floyd, there's so many video, Philando Castro, there's so much video that we have of these violations, and then police officers are able to walk away. But you tell us the video, you tell us to, if you see something, record something. No. Why do we need a body camera footage if body camera footage is not enough to show misconduct? Line by line of policy and procedure, I have given the city of Arlington. Line by line policy and procedure, I have given the state. And nothing happened. There's no teeth to that. They're still allowing police officers to violate actual known policies of Arlington Police Department policy of rendering aid, of use of force policy, and no one's being held accountable.
Ironically, Trena's background is in law enforcement. She started in the military, then she went on to join law enforcement, starting out in corrections.
The system has changed for me. My views and perspective have changed for me based on what happened to my child, but not only that, but what I've seen while working in the system and how the system operates. It was never the same. And when I see my child struggle with those same hurdles and those same obstacles, I begin to see a difference in what the system was about and who the system was really to protect. The system was created as a profit. We talk about capitalism. We talk about a lot of different things that the system is really about, but it's not about protecting.
Trena released videos from that night into the public. She was then sent a letter from the Tarrant County DA informing her that she needed to return the videos. She stood her ground and refused, and then she was sued by the county. Treshun's mothers continue to fight for justice and accountability for Treshun and others who have lost their lives at the hands of police. Rest in power, Treshun Miller.